Hey, Nato here. Today I'm going to do part 11 of What If Deku Had a Leveling System. Okay, so I decided to give um, the 53 continents name. Um, from weakest to strongest. The weakest one where Deku started is Dragnos. The one he is in now is Polyrus. And I'm not going to say, well, you can basically read the name of the other ones. But yeah, so like you can see from 23 to 53, so 30 more. No, 31 more. I need more names, basically. So that's the first thing. Second thing, if you remember in, I think, part 6, he went and talked with dragons and trained with them. One of the dragon told him that there was a around 2,000 temples and ruins, that each of them had a god assigned to them. The total number is actually 2012. Actually, the reason I'm saying it right now is because it's going to come in later in the part. And lastly, um, Deku is now at 7 books. His level is 100 and no 1113 because he killed some monsters in the last part, but I forgot to say how many levels he gained. He still has 222 years of age. And in the last part I ended it with him um, being ready to go to the temple. So I think I also forgot in the last episode to say that he went and got the book from the Swamp Kingdom. But yeah, he got it. So that makes the Dwarven Kingdom book, the Dragon's Cave book, the Elven Kingdom book, the Beastman Kingdom book, the Human Kingdom book, the book of, well, the from the Twin Kingdom. There's the Human Kingdom, and then there's the other kingdom right next to it. And lastly, this one, the Swamp Kingdom. So he got 7 books, and he is ready to go to the temple because he actually, while talking to the royals of that kingdom, they actually asked him if he could go and see what's happening there. They told him he would pay them, and yeah. So Deku being ready to go. Actually, didn't even read any books here because let's say there's no library. Like literally, the only books that are in there are in taverns, houses, or the one book that the kingdom was actually keeping protected, which was the book that Deku was looking for. So Deku is ready to go to the temple. He knows exactly where it is. Well, ruins. because he was tasked to go in it, kill any monsters that are near it, and find out what is inside of it. The pay he gets from that will basically be around 2 platinum coins, which it's extremely huge. I know, not 220, I mean, which is huge. As well as anything he finds in the temple. And so Deku leaves. They asked him if he wanted a group of adventurers with him to help him in his quest. Basically, the highest tier of adventure they can, well, that they have. Which Deku said no, it's okay. And that if it's absolutely needed, he would prefer being alone in it because he would actually use the max of his strength and basically break the entire place if needed, which they basically accepted because, yeah, well, if it's absolutely needed and that the temple is the thing that's problematic, it's true that if someone else is there, he kind of had to make sure that they're protected. So, yeah. Um, Deku leaves to go there, and it's basically about 2 days of boat from there if you pass in the labyrinths that are all around. But Deku went straight there in less than a day, around 23 hours. So Deku arrives there, and there's a massive amount of monsters around it. Monsters that normally chase each other or beat each other, kill each other, or hunt each other. Acts as if they were guards, or, well, basically guarding something or someone. And when they saw Deku, they basically attacked. And he basically just went Dragon Force and used a Thunder Flame Dragon Roar, which decimated them. The ones that survived were basically frozen right after with ice magic. Deku enters the ruins and finds a lot of basically skeletons, zombies, and other things like that because, yes, zombie exists. In this one, the way skeletons, zombies, ghouls, vampires, well, not really vampires. Vampires are need to be bitten or given the blood of a vampire to actually make one. But skeletons, zombies, ghouls are actually created from 4 different ways. The first one is being brought back by a necromancer for skeletons and zombie. The 3 others actually acts on all of them and can make any one of them, depending on the state of the body. But the second one is actually by a massive amount of negative emotions in the being before dying. So let's say you were extremely mad or stuff like that. You have the more negative emotion you had, the higher chance you have of coming back. Depending on when you come back, you will become a skeleton if you don't have any flesh left on your body, a zombie if you have already started being decomposed, and a ghoul if you actually come back before your body starts to destroy itself. Reason for that is that if your body is, well, at the same time, depending on the amount of hatred or negative emotion, because two bodies in the same state can actually become or a zombie or a ghoul. A ghoul will appear if the negative emotions are past a certain point, but it still needs the body to be in a kind of okay way, and it will then modify the body. A zombie will just continue to decompose for a while, then stop at a certain part, and just basically feed on the hatred continuously until or there is no more, or that something kills him. Um, Third way to create one is actually a bit darker than the two first one. One a necromancer, a second one negative emotion. The third one is actually with dark ritual happening close to it, where a lot of people are being sacrificed. The souls and negative emotions of the people being sacrificed can actually go into corpses that are around, revives them with the only purpose to kill people, which is extremely dark because, oh, they're killing 100 children and all of their souls are being reborn as zombies only there to kill. It's kind of dark. The last one is, well, for zombies and ghouls to bite um, a victim, which will transform them. And for the skeleton, well, they actually have a certain type. Well, they can multiply in a certain way, which is actually around skeletal remains and stuff like that. They can actually, if they pass near them, revive them with their own well, the magic that holds them together and makes them live can basically go to other skeletons. So yeah. So basically Deku sees a lot of those. And he doesn't know which of the four ways it is. Is there a necromancer here? If yes, he has to kill him. If it's because of negative emotion, he just has to destroy all of them to make sure they don't um, grow in number. If it's the third way, he has to find, well, the cult that actually did it, or whoever did it, as well as kill all of them once again. Because if a necromancer revive a zombie and skeleton, if you kill the necromancer, the source of magic that actually feeds them is destroyed, so they can't feed off of it. So yeah, but basically he doesn't know which one it is, and he just keeps going. Um, Basically, just like for the one underwater, 5 rooms with chests, which this time he opened on the spot, which basically the same thing. Um, some books that basically has everything that is written on the walls on in them. Jewelries and gold, which he takes. Um, and once again, an egg, broken, just like in the last one. And once again, it seems to be made kind of in the same material, except that this one is different in a way. But he doesn't know what it is. Since he needs to completely clean the place, he knows that he needs to go to the last room, which he is sure will have or a monster, a group of monster, or the reason why everything is acting like that. So he basically tries to find his way around the labyrinth, basically in the same way that he did in the caves. He sends small balls of light, basically the dribble spell that allows him to see through the balls of light. So he basically sends them through everything, and the moment where it actually finds the last room, he makes it enter because this time he actually has a way to do it without needing to enter himself. And he sees on the walls a lot of drawings. One in particular that looks like a giant snake with wings, white and purple. The drawing seems to be in total around 80 meters long, and all he's thinking is there's no monster there. So he decides to go. When entering the room, he looks around and there is a. Well, firstly, one thing that he didn't look at correctly was the ground, since he just kind of looked for monsters basically at first. But there's a spot with a drawing on the ground, basically under a sort of magic field. So he can walk on it without problem, but it's under a magic field, and the magic field is around like 3 feet above the drawing. Deku passes over it and he hears a click, as well as hearing the sound of something starting to move around the place. He looks back when he hears something that's, well, basically a door slamming. He looks back and the doorway by which he entered has two massive doors made of stone blocking the way. He does a light spell to illuminate the entire place, and the first thing he looks at is where the drawing was, and there's no drawing there. There's not even a crack on that wall. And then he looks back behind him, feeling the presence that's coming towards him, and the snake isn't in the picture. It's actually flying around him. A giant snake. The dragon basically goes towards Deku, which Deku tries to firstly punch the dragon, which the dragon kind of moves around him, and then the dragon turns around and spit at him. What he spits is some kind of jelly-like purple thing that, when touching the ground, starts melting it like acid. And Deku smells it and it smells of death. It is poison. Deku remembers reading about this, a demonic poison snake. Those things can grow up to be around 70 meters long, and this one is a bit bigger than that. All he's thinking is, okay, yeah, he's the keeper of the temple. He must be older, so I get it. You would think, oh, he's afraid of the poison. Not really, since there is poison magic and he has the god, demon, and dragon slayer kind of that. This one does work a tad differently because it still hurts the being, well, the person that has the dragon slayer power, but he takes like only a quarter of the damage. He still cannot be poison in itself, but he still gains damage from it. So it's acid as well, so he doesn't want to get it on him. So he starts fighting back, trying to touch the dragon, or basically hit him with spells that are fireballs, lightning balls, thunder spells, stuff like that. At some point, the snake approached close to him, and Deku decides to give a punch, basically getting to the snake. When he punches it, his hand slips, but at the same time, he feels a lot of cuts on his hand. Because one thing he kind of forgot to think about is that the scales of this type of snake precisely are made, well, firstly, they're not completely on the body like, let's say, other dragons and snakes, which the snakes normally has scales that are covering its body, but basically that's the only thing that the scales aren't the only place that the scales are not touching it is basically on top of the the scales, because they have a complete side just touching the skin. For this type of snake, the scales are the same way, but they have a part of them that's basically coming out of the scale and is extremely sharp. As well as it covers his body with a small layer of the same poison he can spit out, but compared to that, it's basically a lot less acidic. It still burns Deku, but he's basically cuts, and the acid in his skin and cuts basically make it so that he screams in pain because, well, that's a lot of pain. He backs away and puts healing magic on his arm to basically heal it, and the snake continues going around him. The snake doesn't know that his poison isn't doing that much damage to Deku. Well, the gas that escapes from the poison he breathes, well, spits at him. So the snake's basically just waiting for him to die from the poison. At the same time, Deku's just kind of um, jumping out of the way of the dragon's spit when he does. So Deku basically decides that, okay, enough is enough, I have to kill it. Basically, he used scanning magic on it, and in itself, the dragon isn't that much more powerful than what he thought it was. Basically, if you compared it to a humanoid, it would basically be classed in the normal range, because this snake has been placed there the moment the temple was built. The snake doesn't train like a normal human, well, a normal animal and other things, because he doesn't have to hunt, because those, well, precisely the beings that are placed as guardian in temples and ruins don't actually need to eat. They have a special magic on them to basically make it so that they don't need to eat, sleep, drink, or anything like that. They're still conscious, and whenever someone enters, they basically attack with instinct of protection. So yeah, that's the reason why the snake actually doesn't have that much more power, because when the temples were built, well, the continent Deku is on right now, was actually classed as the lowest one, with a massive margin separating them, well, him from the second one, which was the one where Deku started, the reason they kind of diminished in power, well, they exchanged place, is because some people from the strongest continent actually went to that one and kind of had some kids there. So the power scale kind of got shifted by that, but that's basically it. So Deku basically saw that it's not actually that strong compared to what he thought it was. And so he basically just decided that, okay, I'm going to let it attack me because I need to be in its mouth. He basically jumps up near the snake, and then when the snake goes towards him to basically eat him, instead of dodging, he basically just lets himself be eaten. And once inside, what he does is basically just charge up a massive fire dragon roar. And since the snake cannot dodge it, Deku basically spits it out towards, well, the inside of the snake, which literally makes the snake explode. Which Deku basically planned for that, but he wasn't ready for it to be that powerful. He basically went Dragon Force for it to make sure it would kill it, but he wasn't ready for that much power. He was trying to hold back, but he kind of didn't, I should say. Once the snake was killed, lights in the temple started opening. The door behind him opened again, and the magic field that was making it impossible to touch the drawing on the ground disappeared. Deku, without thinking, just went close to the drawing to see what it was and touched it. The moment Deku touched it, there was a bright light, and he didn't know where he was anymore. All he knew was that he was in another room, looking at a throne with someone on it. Sorry, I needed to drink. So, Deku basically started looking around, and the person that was on the throne started rising up, standing, and said, "Congratulations, you are the first one to beat the test that was this temple." Deku started looking around and basically just asked him, "Who are you?" Which the person told him, "Ah, it's true that it's been a long time. Well, I will present myself. My name is Sadon. I am a god. Yes, the first god of the What If, out of 2012 of them." Which they couldn't ask. "So, you're a god. What can you do?" Which the god basically looks at him and says, "Hmm, that's the first time someone asked that. When we were still on the um well on the realm, most people would ask us for wishes or to grant us them things, or what would do we want to actually grant them. It is the first time that I've heard someone just ask me, what can I do? Why do you ask that?" Which Deku then says, well, explains that he's from another world, he was reborn in this one, and he wants to go back to his world. The god basically just looked at him and said, hmm, that's interesting. Nobody's been reborn from another world that easily and kept their memory since almost 20,000 years. Which Deku said, yeah, but there has been people summoned here, right? Which the person said, yes, around 2,000 years ago the last summon was made. The blind dragon from part 6, basically, was the last summoned being. So, they could basically ask if he knew of a way to send him back to his world, because he would like to go back. And the god basically told him that there are ways to do it. The problem is that they all have to be fulfilled to do it. He can only say two of the requirement to do it, and one of them is to have or the willingness of the gods of this world, and the second one is actually to know exactly where you want to go. He cannot say anything about the other requirement to do it, except that there is a lot of them. Which he then looked at Deku and asked, do you know exactly where you want to go when you go back? Which Deku goes to answer back when he was, but the god says, to be precise, I am asking of a location. The time still passes in your world. Which neither of them knows that only like 2 days and 1 or 2 hours have passed. Like, really not that long. For the other world, because basically no one actually went back to a world, and even if someone were to be able to be sent back, pretty sure nobody would come back to that. So he basically asked Deku that again, which Deku decided to answer that yes, he knows exactly where he wants to be. Which the god then says, so for the second requirement, they will have a problem with that. You see, for all of the gods, some of them try to keep the world in a state of order. One in particular, which is the strongest one of us. By himself, he keeps the entire universe stuck in a cube, and it cannot expand. Nothing can come out of it. The only way to go beyond it would be to have a power greater than his, or for him to accept for you to go through it, which he will never accept. Which Deku, hearing that, basically just gets angry because he wants to go back to his world. Which he then says that how can I force him to let me go? Which the god looks at him and tells him, you would need to kill him. It is as hard as this. Which Deku asks, kill him? Then I have to train. Which the god looks at him and tells him, you do not get it. He is the first god. He is the god who created this place. He keeps it balanced, or should I say, what they think is balance. They make it so that the world cannot expand and cannot reach a certain amount. People in this world will keep growing, but even if they can keep getting more levels, the power that they have doesn't go up anymore. Even if their stats grow and their level augments, they stay at that power because the gods don't want them to be defeated. They do not want to die and be dethroned by someone else. I am one of the rare gods who actually hate being one. To be honest, this world wouldn't even need gods. We do not play any roles in this world anymore, except for those that try to keep their own type of balance in it. So I have a request for you, which Deku decides to say, what is it? I just learned that I had to kill the strongest god to be able to escape this place. What is your request? It might be easier to do than that. Which he says, actually, it will have the same consequences and hardship. My request is for you to kill all of the gods that oppose you. Which Deku basically asks, wait, what? But aren't the gods supposed to be way stronger? Which he responds, not really. Most of them are actually beings that or have claimed the place of a god before the temples were created, or people that were able to level up enough to actually show them that they were strong. Those that were able to show gods that they were stronger than most had the right to challenge a god with a limiter. If the gods was beaten or killed, the person that was able to beat him would gain his power, well, a part of his power, and then become the new god. And most of the gods that are on right now have a lot of powers, but are not actually used to it. They only wanted to become gods and then started staying in their own dimension without training or do anything because they achieved what they wanted. Those gods compose around 90% of them. In the 10 last percent, half of them actually want to die or stop being God, which, even if we decide to leave the realm that we are in right now, wouldn't make us more mortal. So we wait for someone to come by, for us to ask him to kill us, and he takes our place, and the cycle continues. The last 5% of them are gods that or are trying to keep balance or do not want to be disturbed. And those gods do not want the world to leave some people. Wait, no, to let some people leave. Yeah, that's the right order. Sorry about that. And so, to kill the highest god, you will have to gain the power of every god. Which means that you will become a god. Which Deku asks, okay, so if I kill you, I become immortal by age? Which the gods responds, no, you do not. The way the godly power works is that if you are able to fight us and beat us in the fair trials, you gain part of our stats and a specific power that comes from that specific god. The reason we become immortal in age is actually because we stay here. When we become god, when someone becomes a god, most of the time they decide to stay in this realm for a while before going back. The problem is that if you have the godly power and that you stay here for too long, you become bound to this realm. You can still leave, but you cannot leave. Your soul is still here until it is killed. Your body may leave, but if anything's happened to it, it just comes back. The only way to kill a god is in its own realm. And so my final request, kill every god and find a way back to your house, to your home. If you are able to do this, you will be the most powerful being in existence, with the power of every gods, with the power to choose to give it to other people or the power to destroy them. Then the god starts coming down and coming close to Deku and ask him to kill him. Which Deku's been just listening to everything and just weighing the options that he has. He looks at him and asks him, so the only way to go back home is to do this, which Sadon tells him it is or that, or you spend the rest of your life here. The special power I will give you if you do kill me is the power to stop time for 10 seconds for you only. You can only stop time once, and after that, you have to wait for it to recharge, and it takes around 10 minutes. During those 10 seconds, you can move around as much as you like, but in 10 seconds, you cannot really go that far. So when you do activate it, make sure that it is the right time, and make sure to use it well. Which Deku then takes out his sword. If you remember the sword that I haven't talked about in multiple episodes, that he forged himself, that has the power to heat the blade, become, well, increase its weight or decrease it, and can turn from a sword to a spear. And the last thing was that it was basically unbreakable. He basically took that sword and told the gods, thank you for the knowledge. Which the god responded, and thank you for upholding my request. Which Deku then proceeds to chop his head off in one swing. After doing that, he feels a surge of power in him. The body of Sadon disappears and becomes light, and simply gets absorbed in Deku. Deku opens his menu, and there's a new icon that's appeared on it. When he clicks on it, he basically sees a circle with many, many slots where in one of them, what he sees is actually the face of Sauron. He can zoom in on it, and when he actually clicks on it, it basically shows him the powers that Sauron gave him, which is, well, firstly, the stats that he gained from Sauron is basically, well, I'm going to just say the full stats of Deku right now at his level. Fully right now, the strength stat is at around 3,400,063, which after this I'm basically going to stop talking about it because he's just going to increase his stats basically. Because they do class it in stats, but they also give another number. Basically, think of it as how they class power in Seven Deadly Sins. They check strength, magic, and spirit, which you add all of that to do the power level. It's basically the same thing for in this one, but only looking at, well, at looking more of them. Attack, well, strength, defense, magic, intelligence, and speed. Basically looking at those five stats and basically giving, um, well, not the full stat, but what it does is basically, how can I say this? Um, the process that they do it is actually that they take all of your stats, add them together, and then that number they basically places it in I have it on paper and it's hard to explain even then basically. um, I'm going to try and make it sound okay. I'm just going to pause for that. Okay, yeah, so I know how to explain it a bit easier. You add all of the five stats that I gave before, and then you divide it by 5, and basically that's the amount of power, well, the power level that they give you to place you in a class. And basically that's the way they actually do the classing from low, strong, normal, blah blah blah, and abnormal. So that's basically how they do it. So basically, all of the 5 stats that I'm talking about are in the 2 to 3 millions because the god that he just killed was actually one of the low ones, actually. And the only thing that he gave Deku, well, he was still stronger than Deku, but he only gave him like 200 million to each stat. 200,000 to its stats. I mean, and they basically give like 1% of their stats plus the skill. So he was basically around, well, each stat he had was basically around 20 million, so he was still a lot stronger than Deku. And if they had to actually fight, he would probably kill Deku. But the guy didn't even care, so now Deku knows that he has to train. Because he has a new quest: kill every gods of this world, gain their power, and find out what are the other requirements to get back to his own world. So, in this part, well, basically, he's not going to another city, kingdom, or whatever. Actually, the moment he killed him, he basically looked at the stats he got, but at the same time, he was going back to. He was getting out of the realm, so he didn't stay long enough at all to actually be bounded to the place. So he has the stats of a god, well, part of the stats of a god, which by now Deku is in the abnormal class basically, and he actually decided that he was going to start training a lot more because of what he decided that he was going to do. So he went back to the kingdom and straight to the palace and told them that it shouldn't be a problem anymore. That if it really had something to do with the temple, well, the ruins, he actually destroyed them completely. Which he actually did. Because if they're, well, the reason the temples and ruins do not fall is actually because of the god that stays in the dimension, in the other realm. If the god isn't there, the temple become basically rocks and stuff like that, and can be broken as easily as a simple cave or something like that. So Deku just needed to use a good attack and it was gone. So he has a new goal now that is added. Find the other requirement to go back to his world and kill every god. 2011 left to kill. That's a lot. Also, from killing the god and the snake as well as the monsters, his level increased from 1115 to around 11,040 because a god gives a lot of XP. So, yeah, hope you liked it. Deku has a new goal, and this was actually planned by me from the start of the what if. So it's not something that, oh, in the next episode he's going to meet gods. I'm going to make him go kill all of them. No, it was planned. If you don't like that he has to do it, sorry about that. He still has to. So yeah. If you have any name that you want to give, since I still need 31 more, leave them in the comment section. or I'm going to put a link to my Discord in the description. Just, well, in the description and in the comments. So just go there and tell me your ideas. Um, so yeah, Natsu out.